Ask Dad. He knows. Today we're going to be talking about the best dad in the whole world other than God the Father. He is actually the perfect example of God the Father in human form. Saint Joseph, the foster father of Jesus, the father of Jesus, the earthly father of Jesus, whatever you want to call him. He's amazing and he's so underappreciated, and I am so excited to talk about him. This is kind of going to be broken into two sections, kind of how we can model Saint Joseph and then why now is the time of Saint Joseph. First thing is how we can model him and why we should model him, and how he can be a father to us, in kind of all in that. So he was the father of Jesus, earthly father of Jesus. He did everything that a dad would do perfectly because he was sanctified in the womb. He wasn't immaculately conceived, but he was sanctified in the womb, as tradition says. So he is this perfect example of father. And if you just think about what a good father does on a regular basis, that's what he did with Jesus. He protected, provided, he raised and taught Jesus. He did all of these things so perfectly. He protected. Think about with Egypt. He listened to the angel and fled to Egypt with Jesus and Mary to protect them, to keep them safe. And he does that with us. We're in the midst of this battle in life, and St. Joseph, he is gonna protect you and bring you to heaven, keep you safe while you're here on earth and bring you to heaven. There's a cloak that it's somewhere in Italy, or maybe I think it's in Rome. There's a tradition that there's this cloak at Saint Joseph's, and so it's very similar to we talk about Our Lady's mantle, just Saint Joseph keeping his cloak around you and protecting you and just keeping you warm and cuddling you and all those kind of things. It's really cool to think about. And providing, he provides every grace. He provides all the graces that we need to become holy. Jesus is obviously the most holy human being because he's also God. And then you've got Mary because she's immaculately conceived. And then you got St. Joseph. He's number 3 in the holiest human being. And he's so close to Jesus and Mary. He lived with them for who knows how long. We don't know when exactly he died, but it was probably 20, 25 years, maybe even 30. We don't know when he died exactly. But he lived with them, and so he knows them really intimately, and Jesus obeys his dad. Even though they're now in heaven, he's still going to listen to him because he's a good son, and the son obeys his father. And so St. Joseph is really, really good intercessor because he has that in with Jesus and Mary. Not that Jesus doesn't want to give the grace, but it's intercessory prayer. And then raising Jesus. St. Joseph taught Jesus the trade of carpentry, but he also taught him how to pray the Psalms and how to just be a good Jew, and he does that with us. He teaches us how to pray. He teaches us how to become holy. St. Joseph, we don't have any words of St. Joseph. He was silent. He was humble. He had this interior, and the exterior silence manifests in interior silence and interior peace, because silence doesn't necessarily mean quiet and just boring and nothing is going on. In the silence of the heart, the Lord speaks. It's inside the silence where our Lord's going to speak and the Lord's going to teach us. And that's what St. Joseph did. He was silent because he was contemplating Christ in front of him. The Holy Family's house was kind of like the first Adoration Chapel because Christ was present there. And so St. Joseph and Our Lady were constantly just contemplating Christ and just being with Christ. And that's how we're supposed to be in our daily lives. Especially now, I'm going to tie it back to the coronavirus, but always. Now that our houses are where we live and every single moment of our lives, basically, we can't go to church, we can't go to adoration chapels. Well, maybe you can, depends on where you live. I can't. Just now that our houses are kind of just our prayer space, that's where Christ is going to come into that. And so just contemplating Christ in the house. And so St. Joseph teaches us how to do that. He raises us as good Catholics, which kind of sounds weird, but that's what a father does. The father teaches his children. Why is now the time of St. Joseph? There's a bunch of different reasons, and we're going to try to go through them real quick. So, big things are, he's a perfect exemplar of purity. He's the perfect exemplar of father and head of family life. He is the protector, special patron of the sick and dying, and also the Eucharist and adoration. Purity. Okay, I think we all know that right now, people are not living pure life. A lot of people, the general culture is not living a pure, chaste life. And purity, or people equate chastity with like bad, or just saying no to sex. But purity is really just, chastity is really just ordering your heart well, or the ordering of your heart to love well in your state of life, whatever that looks like. Go read the Catechism on chastity, because I can't. It's a whole nother video. I know, go read the Catechism. The Catechism is so good and beautiful, and you just you can't appreciate it until you read it. So Saint Joseph is the exemplar of purity, because he and Our Lady lived chastely, as in they actually abstained. That was their form of chastity, but chastity in marriage is different. Anyway, sorry, tangents. Purity of heart is really what chastity means. A purity of heart. You need purity of heart to see God, as the 8th Beatitude says. So Saint Joseph is going to teach us how to live pure lives that are holy and are oriented towards love, because chastity, that's what chastity and purity is. It's oriented so that it's teaching us how to love better. He shows us how to be mastery over our passions and mastery over ourselves, so that we can love better. Once we possess ourselves well, we can give to the other. We can give to other people. We can give to God. Was purity, fatherhood, and family. Saint Joseph was the pillar of the Holy Family. He's the head, as the father. The father is the head of the family. Saint Joseph's the head of the Holy Family, which is like, wow. He's they were all perfect, but he was quote unquote the least perfect, because he was only purified in the womb, whereas Mary, immaculately conceived, never had sin, and Jesus is God. But he still was perfect, but just he was conceived through sin and purified later. As I have already mentioned, he was the head, he was in charge, and he's the perfect model of man, and and right now in our culture we have a crisis of family, we have a crisis of fatherhood especially. And St. Joseph can teach men how to be good men and good fathers, and how to be good leaders of the household, and be that pillar of the family. He, like I said, he fathers us, and he'll teach others how to father their own children on both the natural and supernatural levels. The next one, he's patron of sick and dying. Okay, so death is always a part of life. It's the only thing that is guaranteed. Death and taxes. I forget who said that. Death and taxes are the only thing that are guaranteed in life. He's the patron of dying and patron of sick. And everybody's scared of death. I mean, basically in general, but coronavirus, fun times. That's sarcasm. And so it's just time to cling to him. And there's a time of uncertainty and a time of craziness. It's time to cling to him and trust ourselves to him, because we don't know what's going on. And he's going to say, look, I'm going to be with you at the moment of death, because the moment of death is like key. It's key. There's a reason we pray for in the Hail Mary now and at the hour of death. The hour of death is the big moment, because that's our whole life kind of depends on that moment, because it's the last, it's our last chance to choose God. And so Saint Joseph is going to be there, if you ask him, at the hour of death, to help you, or to bring you into the presence of God. And the last thing is the Eucharist. He's the protector of the Eucharist. I talked about how he is protector, and he took Jesus and Mary to Egypt. Well, he was protecting the bread of life in that moment, because he was protecting Jesus so that he wouldn't be killed, and he would be able to preach and die and give us the Eucharist, himself in the Eucharist, and die on the cross later. So Saint Joseph is protector of the Eucharist, and so in this time when we can't go to Mass and we don't have the Eucharist available, he's the one that's going to say, look, I'm protecting the Eucharist right now for you, and he's waiting. And so asking Saint Joseph to prepare our hearts for the next time we receive the Eucharist, because he never actually received the Eucharist, because he died before Jesus instituted the Eucharist, but he was there contemplating Christ's face all the time, which is what the Eucharist is about and what adoration is about. So he's teaching us, he can teach us how to do that well right now without the sacraments. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Basically, I want to tell you that Joseph is a superlative of every virtue on a human level with grace, and that he has 3 treasures: Jesus, Mary, and you. So, ask him to help you get holy and have fun doing it. Hope you like that video, and I hope it brings you closer to Saint Joseph, and well, let him get into your life, and he'll bring you closer to himself. Because that's kind of how it is. It's us just opening ourselves, and then he takes over. If you want more about Saint Joseph, 2 books. Meet Your Spiritual Father, and then Consecrating Saint Joseph. This is actually a really new book, and it's so good. I did it for March 19th, and this is like, this is where I got a lot, and it's so amazing. It's so amazing, so amazing. So, those 2 books, Mark Mirabel and Father Donald Calloway. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, feelings, whatever, comment below. Ideas for videos, comment below. Figure out ways to get holy and have fun doing it.